here we go. I noticed my videos about gender and sex get about almost as many likes as dislikes, which is reminiscent of my experience in classrooms. I mean, some people just cannot hear information. Just, this is what this gene does. Oh my God, kill that person. It's just like people really have no sense of, I think, intellectual honesty and intellectual calm. Or intelligence. It's just like people cannot hear information without getting angry. That's what it is. That's a problem. But anyway, in this video, I'd like to talk a little bit about how I became an atheist. Now, a lot of people from American Christian households, they go around and say they're atheists sometimes, especially people who lean to the left. And in my experience, virtually none of these people are. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's fine. You don't have to be a this or that. It's totally fine. But like they all end up like doing culturally Christian things. And at the end of the day, they have some like bizarro belief systems about like who's listening to their prayers and where these bad people are going to go. They essentially are and act and speak and do things just like Christians do. So I no longer believe most of these people who say that they're atheists. In fact, I almost believe almost nobody who says that they are. I am, not to like be cool and be like, ooh, I don't like my parents and this kind of thing, which is what I see most people doing when they say they're an atheist. I'm an atheist the same way, someone like my hero, one of my heroes is Carl Sagan. I grew up watching Cosmos, the original series with Carl Sagan in it, and that really opened up my mind. And I was really young, but something happened even before then. Carl Sagan, of course, would just straight up say, these religions are just a bunch of mythology. What's the difference between a religion and mythology? The people who are practicing the mythology are dead. That's basically it. So for me, a lot of people don't know this about me. I was born and raised in the United States. So if Donald Trump and your ICE psychos are checking this out, I was born here. I know it's difficult to comprehend because maybe I look like Saddam Hussein's nephew to some people, but sorry, I was born in New Jersey. My bad. But my parents were not. They were born in the axis of evil. But they're not members of the axis of evil. They came here and they were Muslim. So I was born and raised, Bismillah, and here's the Quran, and contrary to popular belief in my house, like people say, like, oh, Muslims don't like images of the Prophet Muhammad. That's Sunni Muslims. Shia Muslims, we had pictures of the Prophet Muhammad in like every fucking room in the house. Come on. Give me a goddamn fucking break. I laughed at all of them as I walked by and I was like, what the fuck is this crap? But we did. But this was in New Jersey, and it was really strange because like I was born here and I was told Allah is the God of the universe. This is my magic you have a mind virus sound. A lot of people do. People on the left do, people on the right do. Everyone has this. I'm wondering what mine is. I like Tool, a lot, but like that's kind of different. I don't know. I don't really think I have like that kind of thing. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, maybe I should just like pick a deity and hate the people who don't agree with me, and so I can fit in and like have like a team jersey and like join one of the hate groups or something. But anyway, so I was told by mom and dad, my parents, that Allah is the God of the universe. Okay, but what solidifies beliefs, which is something that was in one of my previous videos, in Festinger, Reichen, and someone else wrote it, what was the book? See, I need to have my coffee here. When Prophecy Fails, one of the things that solidifies beliefs is having to be around other people who are also committed to this belief system to kind of pummel you into like agreeing with the narrative. So I grew up around a lot of people who were from Christian households. Sometimes they were white, sometimes they were black, sometimes they were, back then no one really knew or cared, but they were like Democrats, Republicans, whites, blacks, some Latinos, but every one of them was from a house where their mom and dad told their children that Jesus Q Christ was Lord. No, just kidding. Jesus H Christ. What's H? Henry? Hank? Husserl? Heidegger? Jesus Heidegger Christ. Anyway, but they told their kids that Jesus is Lord. And so as a little kid, this was very different because right away, right out of the fucking womb, it was obvious to me that we were not like anyone around us. And so I would just it was obvious, my parents were speaking another language that nobody was speaking. We looked phenotypically, we didn't look like Latino people. We didn't look like blacks. We didn't look like whites. We looked different. We sounded different. We ate different food. We had a different God. And there was no one in the neighborhood anywhere like us. So one of my earliest experiences right out of the fucking womb is you're different. You're not like these people. And it was more than obvious. My mom and dad were telling me this is the sky god that you got to worship. And everyone else is like, what the fuck is that crap? This is the sky god. And it kind of persisted for a big chunk of my life. And I'm gonna get some coffee here. So years went by from out of the womb up until I was about 6 years old. This is 1980, maybe seven. Maybe it was 7 years old. It was 81 or 2 or something like that. And and then that's when D&D was starting to really pick up. I gotta push my French press down here. I like my coffee a little bit on the fancy side. What can I say? I was like, okay, this is cool. What's going on here? And I was real little. I was 7. You're not really even supposed to play at that age. I think it said ages 9 and up or something. But I would get babysat by a bunch of people who they would have their kind of older kids who are 18, 19 or something, invite even older people over. And they would be playing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm talking first edition OG original rules, Dungeons and Dragons original rules, right? And then I was like, okay, I want to play. And they were like, okay, here. And this is cool because they gave me a character sheet, and you could pick a name, which was cool, and then you could pick a class fighter. This is basic OG first edition D&D, dwarf. I think you could pick. I think elf was a race and a class, if I'm not mistaken, at the time. Get some, yeah, and it was fun. And one of the things that was being asked of me to do was on the character sheet, there was, pick your patron saint. And I'm like, a patron? I'm young, I didn't know, pick a patron saint and a deity. And I'm like, what the hell do these words mean? I'm a little kid, I didn't know what these words meant. And I'm like, patron, is that like I thought of a parlor with like fancy people with ruffle feathers or something and ruffles on their collars or something. I'm like, what the hell is a patron? What is that? And they're like, don't worry about that. I'm like, okay, good. And they're like, but you got to pick a deity. And I'm like, what the hell is a deity? And then some guy who's drinking whiskey and smoking cigarettes, and meanwhile I'm 6 or something, he hands me a copy of Deities and Demigods. And just the cover, it was the original one. If I recall, it had a Githyanki warrior on it, which is a demonic warrior with a sword from an extra dimensional field, who travels via spaceship to conquer and enslave other humanoids. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. Okay, yeah, can I pick this guy as a deity? And they're like, no, you got to pick a deity. So I'm opening it up, and I'm like, what about Allah? That's a god. And they were like, yeah, not that one. I'm like, okay, what about Jesus? And they were like, no, not that one. And I'm like, fuck, you mean there's more than these 2 fucking gods? What the hell what the fuck is going on here? And so I open up the book, and I see some familiar names and some unfamiliar names in the book. And I'm like, you got to keep in mind, I'm like 7 or 8 or something. I was real young, maybe even 6, I can't remember. And I look through the book, and there's some familiar names like Saturn and Neptune and, these kinds of things. And I'm like, okay, so, like, you could pick that. And then it, like, kind of like, I was like, make sure I don't put too much in here. I was like, what is going on here? These are, like, real gods. And then right when I said that, I was like, wait a minute. No, they're not. They're not real gods. They're the fake ones, obviously. The real ones are Jesus and Allah, obviously. That's good. And I'm flipping through it more, and I'm seeing some, some other familiar names. There were some North American gods. And I'm thinking, like, I can pick one of these? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute. You can't pick Jesus and Allah, but you can pick a North American deity, like, worshipped by, like, the Incans and Aztecs and stuff like that. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, and then I saw one name in particular that stood out, Thor. And I knew Thor. Not like in my heart, like worshiping Thor, but like not like biblically knew Thor. I guess maybe some people, I'm not trying to make fun. I mean, don't laugh. Some people might worship Thor. I'm sure there's some pagan temples around still, and they're like, Thor lives. Okay, whatever. But I was like 7, I saw Thor, and I'm like, okay, Thor, right. Wait, that's a comic book character. And then it dawned on me, all of these gods in this book, or a lot of them that I recognized, were deities or gods that were worshipped by actual people who are all dead now. And it dawned on me real early, and I was like, so the only reason that we worship Allah and some people worship Jesus is because we haven't died yet. And this was like really, let's get some cream here. It's very, back, boy, when you get older, your back starts, you gotta micromanage your movements. It's no joke. Like adjusting, rolling over your side in bed even is like, you could throw your back out sometimes. So I'm like, this is really weird. What the hell is this shit? Like, there's all these gods. And Thor is a god. And it dawned on me. And like, I'm just like, my little like 7-year-old brain is like, my mom and dad told me Allah is God. My friend's mom and dad is telling them that Jesus is God. And then there's all these fucking people that used to worship all of these other gods, and they're all dead. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? What the actual fuck is this? Because my parents were like, super uber duper religious people, and like everything had to be proper and that kind of stuff. And then my friends would go to church, and they were all serious about it. And I didn't want to disobey my parents and be like, this is fake. And I didn't want to tell my friend's mother or father that you guys are idiots. What the fuck are you doing, lying to your fucking children? That's not the right God. It's Allah, don't you know? Because we're the cool people. Come on. I didn't want to say this, but it was always like from a very early age. Like I was basically in the crib, and this was like clearly what was happening. Like it was obvious, and it made no fucking sense. Like, again, if I had other people who were Muslim people around us in my community, it's a very good chance, just like the people who were born in a Christian crib, I probably wouldn't question anything. But because of this differential, it was more than obvious. There's no way, especially as a child, the way children's brains work, when you see those differences, it's just, you can't not see that as a kid. It's so obvious, and something that huge, like, you notice it, and I did. Finally have a sip of my coffee. Cheers, everyone. That's good. Yeah. And I heard Yeti is now making a French press cup all in one. So Yeti, if you want to sponsor my videos on atheism and gender ideology, feel free. We're match made in heaven. And by heaven, I mean Quetzalcoatl's heaven, obviously. Should go over well. Where was I? Yeah, D&D. And so it was just pretty clear, like, but then I remember having these existential questions, like, as a kid, like, I was scared. Like, honestly, scared. I thought, like, okay, who's gonna die next? Like, all of these people, like, millions, and, like, I started thinking, like, there's literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of people who worshiped all of these gods. They're all dead. They all thought if they did the right thing, they would go to heaven, and the bad people would go to hell. And I'm just like, which one is it? Holy shit, am I going to go to hell? Am I going to go to heaven? Or are the Allah and Jesus people, are they both going to die and end up in some like D&D 90 millionth edition book? You know, I had no idea. It was really scary to me as a kid. And it was like, what, like, are we going to die? Should I tell my mom and dad that their God is fake? Should I go to my friend's house and be like, the fuck is this Jesus shit, dog? What the fuck are you talking about? First century Jewish carpenter, fuck off. And it seemed rude to do that, so I didn't. So I'm making a YouTube video about it instead. Yeah. And then it hit me like, are my parents just wrong? Are they wrong? Or are the Jesus parents wrong? Or are both of these people wrong? And then so for many years, like through grade school, high school, and much of college, I refer to myself as Muslim. I wore like a thing around my neck that had like a symbol on it, Bismillah, which was funny. I was being like threatened and told to go back to my own country by all these fucking like members of the Nazarene every day. And then they would turn around and sing like the Queen song, Bohemian Rhapsody, and they'd be singing, Bismillah, no, we will not let you go. And I'm like, you're telling me to go back? I'm like, do you know what you're even saying? And of course they don't, because they're, you know, especially back then, you couldn't look that stuff up, lyrics, like you didn't have access to like what these lyrics meant or anything like that, or even what they were saying. So, but I knew what they were saying. And it was just so funny that these people who were hating on Muslims and telling me to go back to my own home were singing that song. It's just kind of strange. So my childhood experiences were very, very different than most people. But around college, I experimented with some psychedelics. And I'm always a big proponent of these. But now it's almost like people are just like, yeah, let's microdose and let's do 5 hits and go on a roller coaster ride. And I think you're really missing it. It's like that stuff is like cough medicine. You know, if you need it, you should use it. If you don't need it, you don't use it. It's like a serious thing, you know, like don't be stupid. Okay. Or whatever. Can I go and get in trouble for that? Who knows? And so, you know, that first experience, up to that point, I was pretty sure this is all just a bunch of fake shit, you know? But then after that experience, it's like, yeah, all of these sky books are absolute, unadulterated, pure nonsense. And it was ever since then, there was never, ever going back to any sky book, you know? So I meet like Hindu people and they're like, come to the temple, you know, Ganesh. And I'm like, okay, you know, I've worn the robes and I've done that. I backpacked through India and did all that stuff. And then the Christians are like, here, come to the church. Here's the Bible. You know, it's not about like believing. It's about being with people. And I'm like, okay, so why don't you go to the Jain temple? I'm like, oh, well, we don't believe that. It's not what I grew up in. Okay, so now you understand. I didn't grow up with this tradition. And you just said it's not about going to this building or with this book. It's just a matter of being with people. So you shouldn't have any problem going to that building because there's people there and there's a building. So let's go over there. And of course, they start threatening your life. Excuse me, I'm going to have some more coffee here. Sometimes they don't threaten your life. Sometimes they just shun you, which is not always better. Where's my lid? Here we go. Yeah, Yeti. So yeah, that's basically how I became an atheist. Now, after college, in like grad school, I was questioning a lot of things, and I went to, I was born in a Muslim household, and the first school I ever went to, nursery school, was a Catholic nursery school. And the last school I ever went to was a Catholic graduate school. And it was a very, very good Catholic graduate school. And I spent a lot of hours and days in the basement, and it was Duquesne University for anyone's interested. And the basement, it went 10 stories down into the ground. And there was a barometrically oxygen sealed chamber of all of these like ancient existential books. And I was just like reading these like ancient tomes in this like Catholic dungeon. And after all that, it really like solidified it. I was just like, this is people whose mom and dad told them this is the God of the universe, and they were surrounded by a bunch of other families whose mother and father were telling them this is the God of the universe, and they all just agreed upon it, as opposed to people who lived on the other side of the ocean. They had different deities, and this was just, it was obvious that's what that is. And there was never any going back. And I became, for a bunch of decades, for a couple of decades, I think, I was militantly atheist. I would go around and not just mock and ridicule people who were religious, but I would sometimes just, berate them endlessly until they would convert to atheism, admit that they're stupid, or I would just start cursing them out. I was pretty serious about it for a while. Now, I'm very different about it. I'm extremely different about it. I don't care. You can believe whatever you want to believe. I support freedom of religion. I support, people who go to the Jain temple, the Hindu temple, the mosque, the synagogue, the Church of Scientology, the Church of Christ. I support all of it because I recognize now that religion is really important to people, and it really helps families coalesce. But you can't go along with it. I've donned all the suits. I've sat in the pews. I've gone to the temples. I've dressed up as Santa Claus, which is essentially just nothing more than training wheels for Jesus. I've done the whole thing, but it's just never enough. You have to really show fervor, pious religious fervor, or they just don't want you there, or they just ridicule you or ask you to go get coffee or stand in the corner. And that's the community. Not to me. So unfortunately, the search for community has continued for most of my life, and I don't think I really even care much anymore. I suffered as a kid growing up because I was always outcasted because of a lot of religious and ethnic and racial shit. And now I prefer solitude. So it's a win-win. All these people don't want me around unless I'm basically drinking alcohol or worshiping Jesus, and I don't do either one. So it's kind of cool. I don't have to deal with their shit. But it is lonely. Maybe 2% of the time, and the rest of the 98% of the time, I love my interests, my passions, my hobbies. I love to cook and exercise and go for walks, and I enjoy my time. It's a beautiful day outside. I don't need Jesus, Allah, Vishnu, Atman, Yahweh, Ganesh, Boomba, the galaxy vomiting god, or any of them. But if someone likes that stuff, I welcome them to it. It's not for me, and it's a lot of weird things, to me. So just going along with it and sitting there and just being polite to someone is excuse me, it's just really hard to do for me, obviously. So which I don't plan on doing ever, any more than someone else from some other belief system in their household is willing to stop doing what they're doing and do someone else's traditions and speak the way they want them to speak and be polite about it. They're not going to do that. Me either. I don't want to. I don't want to do it for the Muslims, the Jews, the Christians, the Protestants, the Catholics, the Mormons, the Scientologists, the Flat Earthers, or anyone else. So how did I become an atheist? It wasn't because I thought Islam is this barbaric religion, which, the way it's practiced, unfortunately, in many parts of the world, it is. But it's not most of it, but it is a portion of it. It really is. But the same thing with Christianity in different periods of time. It was there's all kinds of, using medieval torture devices to convert people and shit like this. I mean, it was also pretty crazy for a while, but they got more polite about it. Now they just withhold water from people and watch them die who don't have the correct God. So they're just a lot more polite about it. So oh, look at the starving people. What am I going to do? Oh no, whoops. Oh well, looks like they all died. But it's all the same to me. I'm just not really into any of that stuff. Which is a lonely thing sometimes, because that's where community is. And sometimes I do think maybe I should just go to a mosque or a temple or a flat earth society just to be around people. There's just have a conversation where I don't have to drink alcohol, which I don't like. I'm not against it. It's just not for me. My body changed and it just makes me sick now. And it's one drop. It's I'm basically sick for the next 4 days. It's I probably will again in the future, but it's the desire to even want to have friends or even really date at this point, that's a whole other issue, is very low. It's not that the testosterone is low. That's still there. I've mastered a certain activity, if you follow my meaning. I've mastered a certain activity, yeah. So the T level isn't low, it's just that my desire to be around the available candidates to date is nil. So there's that, for a variety of reasons. Basically three: Jesus, alcohol, and rap are the main three ones. But that's another story. Maybe I should make another video and just call it Jesus, alcohol, and rap. Anyway, so religion for you, awesome. For me, no thanks. I'll just have my coffee. I think I was going to talk about something else here, but yeah. So yeah, I just, yeah, you know, I didn't leave Islam because it was barbaric. A lot of people think that. You're wrong. I left it because the concept of a man beyond space and time, or this entity beyond the clouds or something, is listening to my prayers and making good things happen to the good people and bad things happen to the bad people, and they've got your back, and if you pray and are good enough, good things will happen to you too. This whole ethos, orientation, whatever you want to call it, is just shit to me. That's what it is. So it doesn't matter what the religion is. I just don't have that worldview, which is good in my opinion. And I not to convert people, but I think it's a good idea for fewer people to have that view. And what view is that? You can look it up. I'll post a link. It's called the Just World Hypothesis. And it's been studied. Someone outside. It's just a dog. Yeah, the Just World Hypothesis says that good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. It's bullshit. It's fake. That's not true. Wouldn't it be nice if that was the case? It absolutely fucking is not true. Everyone knows it. But they've studied it. And interestingly enough, where you see more people believing that good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people, and this kind of like, you know, when you see poor people, they say, oh, well, they deserved it. Or when you see rich people, it's like, oh, well, they worked hard or something like this. Wherever you see this attitude, you see greater income inequality all over the world. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And it's cross-culturally found. It's replicated. Good science. Yeah. So it would be, if atheism can do one thing, it can reduce this idea that good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. That's a load of shit. It's a fucking load of shit. I look at it, and the same thing goes with politicians, you know. In my almost 52 years, there's never been one politician that has been voted into office that enacted a law or did something that made my life directly good or bad. And I know that has happened for some people, but it's never happened to me even once. And I'm a little skeptical when people claim that it has. Although sometimes a rug could be pulled out from someone, and that could affect things. But even then, I'm a little skeptical. Virtually every good thing or bad thing that has ever happened to me was because of my own doing, or other people doing things to me or at me. That's it. It wasn't because of that politician or that sky god or whatever. It's because of people. When people wanted to be decent and human and help you and be intellectually honest and that sort of thing, they do. And when they don't want to be with you, they don't. That's it. So, this is probably one of the longest videos, so I bid thee all adieu. And don't forget, dinosaurs roam the earth. Stay curious or get the fuck out.